It's August the 6th, 2022 at 12:29 p.m. here locally in southern Arizona. This is the DiaryCast DiaryCast number 51, entitled Spiritual Ethics. This is the third attempt at doing DiaryCast 51. I'm not going to stop this recording for any reason, and that means there will probably be some baubles in it. And with that in mind, I'm just going to talk until I'm finished. I recorded DiaryCast number 51, the first version, earlier this morning. And then I got it all ready, edited, had all of the audio clips, video clips, and other materials organized and ready to begin the editing process into the final video. I decided to nix it. Then I tried it again and recorded the audio, and of course everything else was already prepared. And I just came from the kitchen table and decided I'm not going to do that one either. And the reason is ethics. The first time I recorded it, I shared an amazing story without giving away any personal details that would identify anyone or anything in a disparaging way, regarding a successful attempt I had this week at sending out a phrase that another individual picked up and wrote in a work that they put online in a location that I suggested would be a good idea if they decided to participate. And they did. And we had success. Amazing success. The phrase that I used was in effect defined by the way in which they wrote their response to participate in this experiment. The experiment was based on the fact that I was aware through an article in Live Science magazine that on August the 3rd, there was going to be a hole in the sun that would exude out a solar wind, as they were calling it, and that had the potential to impact and fluctuate the electromagnetic field around Earth. And based on my experiences over the years with similar events that impact the electromagnetic field, like Mercury retrogrades, I have discovered that I have an enhanced ability to connect during those periods, sometimes without my even intending to. I just walk away at the end of these experiences just overwhelmed with downloads and knowings and data and experiences and so forth. But this time I wanted to control the process. I wanted to see if I could utilize this awareness in advance that the potential existed and work with someone I thought might be willing to participate to try an experiment where I, what some people might say telepathically, sent out a message that was received at the other end. I was so excited that it worked and had no intention of even talking about it until the events that began to occur yesterday morning, which was Friday the 5th. And of course, that is right outside the DiaryCast ending date, which would have been Thursday at the end of the day on the 4th. However, those events were so profound that I thought that telling the story in version 1 would be a good idea, to discuss the methodologies that I used, to detail the steps taken, the catalyst of, where the idea came from, the results. I had all these other synchronistic experiences where my phrase came up in, oh my gosh, a half a dozen other media pieces that I came across during the week. And one of the words in my phrase is a unique word, so it's not one that comes commonplace in the everyday. So the fact that it kept showing up all over the place pointed to me that I was succeeding energetically on a global level, on a universal level, on a cosmic level, whether or not this person was picking it up at their end or not. But the fact that they did, for me, offered closure. Then I decided to can that one and nix it because I felt like it was an invasion of privacy, even though it wasn't. And that's just my own personal feeling about it. So then I decided to focus on a second attempt on the events that began to occur yesterday morning. And in essence, what happened, without going into any details, because I already did that once and threw that one in the trash can as well, was that more information came, more information that clarified. But it started with an occurrence that was so obscure that it threw me for a big loop. It was a repeat of a situation that presented twice prior, specifically when I was dealing with these kinds of things and the same individual that had agreed to participate, and a photo of a person that we have in common, let's say, that showed up for me once as an eidolon and then showed up in person, showed up in a picture. And how I got to that picture in the vineyards of the North Fork of Long Island is a story in and of itself. But when I completed that attempt at this DiaryCast, I again felt, even though I didn't mention names and even though I didn't provide any specifics that could point in any unique direction, I knew that these individuals, if they ever ran across these videos, would know who I was talking about, and again felt it was an invasion of privacy. The thing is, that event that occurred yesterday morning led me into a personal search for understanding. Why did this happen a third time? Why this person? What does it mean? Where's the source of this energy coming from? What is its intent? How do I utilize now in a more grounded, stable place, where in the two prior occurrences where this person came into my life as an eidolon and then as a real person, I'm more stable, so that looking at the circumstances surrounding it is viable in a way that wasn't really possible before, because I was still in the learning processes back then, and don't feel like it even occurred to me that there was something deeper to this resounding occurrence. So I began by turning off everything electronic, just being in the quiet, windows open, listening to the sounds outside, even though it was almost 100 degrees at some points during the day yesterday. Read a book, did things that just kept me in the now without any outside influence whatsoever. I thought the feeling would pass, the experience would pass, but it didn't. It was as if it was surrounding me, like a rain cloud, and you knew that rain was imminent and you needed to get inside before the storm began. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go to sleep, and when I wake up in the morning, it will have passed. And I woke up this morning and it just shifted into a similar energy, but not as heavy, not as overwhelming or as overpowering. So what I decided to do instead was embrace it. Follow the Jean Bolte Taylor method of let it flow through you for 90 seconds and pass through. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google Jean Bolte Taylor. She's a Harvard researcher, a brain researcher. And any emotion that you feel, no matter what it is, comes from or starts in your mind with a thought. And that generates a chemical that actually travels through your body. And that chemical takes about 90 seconds, give or take, to work its way all the way through, and then it's gone. If you hold on to it longer than that, or if it seems to persist or exist longer than that, then that's you perpetuating that thought, sometimes even in a loop. So I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to ignore it. I'm not going to just try to avoid it. I don't understand it, but that's okay. I'm just going to embrace it and let it pass through. Which effectively I felt like it did, because I still felt its presence, because I did not understand what it was, or, its purpose, its nucleus, its origin, anything. So after I felt like energetically, or the feeling of it was gone, I dove even deeper. I did 3 tarot pulls, and in each of those 3 pulls, well, let's put it this way. I started with one where I pulled 2 cards and I had that as the placeholder representing that force, that energetic force, because I didn't understand what it was. So I tried to use 2 cards to represent it. And then I pulled a spread around it saying, what is this about? Tell me how I can understand the origin of this, or its intent or purpose, or whatever comes. And from that pull, I got some great answers that were things that would have never occurred to me. But it was like, relief. I finally had a better understanding. So from that first pull, I took 2 cards representing kind of the whole overview of the feeling of that spread, the answer, so to speak, laid those down and pulled a second spread. And the question this time was, okay, well, now that I know that, how is it presenting in this moment? Not just for me, but, in general. And that spread gave me amazing insights as well. Again, things that would never have occurred to me in my everyday. Again, another sigh of relief. And now the final pull. I took a couple of cards from that one, laid them in the center spot, did a Celtic cross around that one as well. And the question was, what next? Tell me more. And that's when I got what I felt like was working through that energy, understanding its origin, understanding its current state of existence, and understanding where it goes from here, and who's involved, and how the whole thing kind of lays out in a storyboard. When I was done, I felt like I had enough information, I didn't need any more, and I could let it go. And I did. That is where I felt like the second DiaryCast storyline came from. But as I said, I finished that DiaryCast and almost began to use it into edit into the final video. And I just didn't feel right about it. It's important to know that within seconds of that third spread, I got a notification on my phone, and it was that Miriam Kramer from Point Your Compass was about to do a live reading that she does every week on her membership-driven Patreon channel for fire signs. Now, Miriam and I have become closely acquainted, let's say, over many years, and especially in the last, say, 4 to 6 months. And I like to attend these to be supportive. So she does the fire signs. And again, I'm not going to repeat DiaryCast attempt number 2, but what occurred in those 3 signs, specifically Leo, and then this supplemental additional reading she did right after Leo, that it was to clarify something that occurred during that reading. I felt like I was in Alice in Wonderland, or, in a place that's surreal, because those, at least the first 2 readings, Aries, Leo, and then that supplemental reading before she got to Sagittarius, was as if the universe, the divine, whoever was with me when I did my own personal readings, was sharing more. It's almost like, the librarian at the Kashik was going, "Yo, Barbara, you didn't ask enough questions." So here we are sharing more. And it was so revealing that I began to shake, because it was so close to home. And I'll leave that there because I could go into detail, but I won't. So after those readings, and I recorded version 1 and scrapped it, recorded version 2 and decided to toss it. Here I am with version 3, because I feel like the most important lesson that I learned, or the most key thing I'm taking with me from this experience, is ethics when it comes to this realm of spirituality and consciousness and more. I don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. What I can tell you is this experiment that my acquaintance agreed to do, and I will be forever grateful to this individual, offered me closure, and it offered them something too. They finally made a choice to dip their toe in the water and give this thing that I've been doing, that I know they have an interest in, an opportunity. And I'm sure that they felt it was a big risk, because what if they wrote something trying to, in the writing, receive this phrase from me and they didn't get it? What does that say about them and their skills and their personality? And are they blocking themselves, or are they open? And, question, self-analysis. Or what if, even possibly worse, it did work? What does that mean? How am I going to deal with this? So I think that the reason they did it was just to offer kindness to me, to finally, let's say, even the score between all the things that happened in the past, and a way to make amends, let's say. And that was something they didn't have to do. But now look what they've learned. They've had their own firsthand experience to see that they actually did pull in what I would call the definition of the phrase that I put out there. And now they have to live with that. And I'm not sure where they're going to take it, but I do know this. I know now that I finally have been able to demonstrate to them in a way that they can't look away from, that I have always been telling my truth this whole time, that these things have been happening to me, and now I was able to share that with them, and they chose to participate. And this choice, I think, this moment that we both experienced this week, that has offered me this closure and offered them an open pathway into the further exploration if they choose. And if they don't, the ever knowing that there is more, that no one can ever take away from them, because you can't unknow something like this when you have the personal experience yourself. That when we came back into each other's lives a handful of years ago, it was with purpose. It had reason, and it was to get us to where we are right now. I went through this really long journey where this person was able to watch from a distance what was happening. They could pretend that they, weren't paying attention, and maybe they weren't, and other times they could step in for a moment and step out and still be safe in their foundations that make them feel so cozy and comfortable. And that's just beautiful. But now they made the choice. And I stuck through it this whole time, knowing that I probably should have walked years ago, but I just couldn't. And now I have what I need to walk on. I have closure. The closure is that I gave this gift away, and it was accepted by choice. And now I know one other person knows that I am who I am, and that it's all true, and that there's more. And doing it in such an ethical manner where I could have told all these stories, offered all these evidence bits. You wouldn't believe the video library that I have collected to tell version 1 of the story, and the screenshots that I could have used in version 2, although I never would have used the photo that I found of this person running in a vineyard last month. But I wish that I could tell the story of how I got there, because it is totally unrelated. Anyway, all of the stuff that I had lined up, but here I am choosing not to use any of it because it doesn't matter. I've learned the methodologies that work for me. I have one person who believes me. I was able to gift to that person everything that they gave me by participating. And we both win, and we both can move on. And this person now has all the tools that they will ever need to pursue this further if they choose. And if they don't, then they have the grace of knowing that there's more. And for this week, I will leave it there.